giving tradies and contractors around the globe the tools to run a modern business. You're listening to Toolbox Talks from the Site Shed. Now here's your host, Matt Jones.
Okay, Allan, how are you? Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, good, Matty. Really going good, actually, and busy. And I really do appreciate you allowing me to join you on this podcast.
Oh, mate, it's great to have you. We've known each other for quite a long time now, and I think we've got a pretty good business dynamic there between us. So I was more than encouraging to contact you and see if you wanted to come on the show and share a bit of your expertise and tell your story.
Well, I'm hoping I can do that. I'll give it my best.
Well, look, as I've mentioned before on previous podcasts, so one of the big messages we try and convey to the listeners and the audience out there is that where you begin is not always where you end up. And we're trying to really dispel the myth of, you don't, if you do a trade, you're going to be on the shovel when you're 40, 50 years old. And the other myth that we like to dispel is, entering into an apprenticeship is, sometimes seen as a bit of a default option. And I'm hoping that with these podcasts that we have been creating with people like yourselves, we're going to try and eliminate that false apprehension there.
I'd love to at some point talk about apprenticeships and how, in my opinion, they are probably more valuable now than a university degree. That's just my opinion. I just feel that the trades, I'm a plumber by trade, but we have an electrical heating and cooling business, and it's pretty much fucking recession-proof, in my opinion. There's trades that are there's certain industries that are gonna become redundant moving forward, but we're doing something that will not. It's a beautiful industry, and but that's an all different. We can, if we've got time, I wouldn't mind touching on that later. I just think it's so important.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, look, as we've already mentioned, I'd like you to become a part of the Site Shed so you can sort of share your expertise in that area. So I think there's going to be a lot of room for us to move forward in that. But for now, what I would like to do is run through this interview here and just communicate, I suppose, a bit of your story, and hopefully the listeners out there can get something from it and maybe relate to it and maybe implement some of what you're talking about. Is that okay?
Oh, I'd love to. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Fantastic.
Exciting.
Good. So I suppose the first question I always start with is what did you want to be when you were a kid?
Okay, not a plumber. Does that answer? Oh, look, I'll expand. Look, I at a very young age, I had a bit of an entrepreneurial seizure, you could say. Didn't know what the fuck I wanted to do, but it wasn't plumbing. My dad was a plumber. I did not want to work for my father, but eventually I did. So, but look, it was just, I looked at plumbing. It doesn't really matter what trade you go for. There is an entrepreneurial, if you've got that entrepreneurial inspiration and you want to be something, it doesn't really much matter. Plumbing, electrical, carpentry. I was a garbo at one stage, and you can make good money from that too. So, So a trade is just a tool, in my opinion.
Yeah, okay. So did you have anything specific in mind when you were growing up, or you just knew you wanted to be an entrepreneur of some description?
When I left school, I was a spray painter, worked for a local panel beating shop, and I really enjoyed that. I really loved to create and change things, but unfortunately, I contracted what's known as dermatitis from the paint thinners, and I had to get out of that trade, and that's where I became a garbo. I collected garbage bins, kept me really fit. My dad wanted me to join him in his plumbing business. I said, no, I'm not going to do it. After 4 years, he pestered the hell out of me, and I eventually, at age 20, 21, worked with my dad as a plumber.
Wow. So tell me a bit about that transition into a trade.
Look, I knew what plumbing was all about. As a young lad, I went out with my dad at work, and I knew what it was all about. And so the transition was, well, Dave, my dad said, come and work for me. You'll have to do your apprenticeship. I think it's 4 years. And he said at the end of the apprenticeship, we, if you like, we can do a partnership together. So I learned the trade, and I love the trade. I think it's a great. it's a great industry, and I met a lot of cool people and learned a lot of stuff. I learned a lot about what plumbing did for me. It taught me a lot about how to build a house, and I've built quite a few houses over the years, some really beautiful places, and that was probably inspired me more about putting in pipes, water pipes and drain pipes was the building and the architecture. And I've drawn plans, and I've designed homes, and I've built quite a lot of homes, and that excited me more than the plumbing.
Yeah, no, I can relate to that. It's sort of when you can stand back and look at a finished product there, it's like, wow, I did that. Okay, so tell me about your transition from, I suppose, when you're a hands-on plumber into your current business or businesses. I mean, obviously you still run a very large plumbing company in Australia here, but can you tell us a bit about that segue?
Yeah, look, I'll probably just a quick snapshot of the Omega Group. We're a plumbing, electrical, hot water, drain cleaning, heating and cooling maintenance, domestic maintenance company currently with, I think there's about 55 plus trucks on the road.
Yep.
And there's currently about 75 or so staff. So back when I started, Omega Plumbing was its name. Back, it was around 1987. It was just me. Prior to that, I'd worked with my dad for a few years. My father, Dave, didn't like the idea of employing people, and understandably, I knew where his pain was. He employed me, so I could understand why he didn't want to employ someone. I probably put him off, but so I started Omega, and I convinced my dad to come and work for me. We were just a very small operation, and we did light construction. We did some bathroom renovations. We did some a little bit of maintenance. We worked for builders, which I've got nothing. I just need you to know I've got absolutely nothing against builders. It's just I've been stung a few times. I've had some builders fold up and go, but I've lost a lot of money there. Some of my closest friends are builders, so it's nothing personal, but I had a bad experience with some builders. So much so in the late 1990s, I pretty much hit the wall. I couldn't make any money out of it. I'd had a lot of losses, and I made a very conscious decision to get into maintenance, domestic maintenance. And we've grown our business from when we first got into domestic maintenance. It was we got serious with it, say, around 2000. We grew to about 7 or 8 trucks by 2005, I think it was. We then decided to take on the American business model, which is flat rate pricing or upfront pricing, or I like to call it fair pricing. And we've grown the business from, 5 or 7 trucks, something like that, to where we are today at 55 trucks. But where I'm going right now, my prediction is we'll have close to 100 trucks by the end of this year, because we're going through probably the biggest growth phase we've gone through, and it's just growing so fast for us with air conditioning that I'm pretty confident in saying that by the end of the year we should be close to 100 trucks.
Amazing! What an empire, hey? Who would have thought?
It's getting that way. It's a handful, but look, I love the challenge, so I'm having a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying the journey.
Great. So that was a good overview there of the Omega umbrella. So can you tell me a little bit more about that transition from where you went to being a plumber with your dad into becoming a business owner, I suppose?
For me, it was a slow transition. I am what you would call, I'm not retarded. I don't want you to think I'm retarded. I'm a really, really slow learner. It's like, I don't know. I just wish I could. I know people that learn stuff and they move quickly. I'm slow, but once I learn something, once I actually work it out, I can then move quite fast. But it took me a long time before I actually realised that I got a business. I thought my plumbing business. You go out and you give a quote. And you do the work, and then at the end of the day, you should have more money in your bank account than what it costs you. That wasn't the case. So for me, it was a very slow transition from from nearly going bust to actually saying, hey, shit, if I don't get some help, if I don't work out, how to make money, I'm in all sorts of trouble. But it took me a long time. It was slow. But look, anyway, I can share I can elaborate and dig deeper on what I've learned. But business is not, it's not just one thing. It's many different things. And, I'm a big believer that, marketing, sales and people. Of course, you've got to bring finance into that. But there's quite a few things you need to focus on to grow and have a successful business.
Yeah, fantastic. So I suppose that transition into the business that you run today has been a slow and ongoing process, and it's enabled you to grow and scale to where you are now.
Yeah, look, once I actually got it, once I realised, I just love the upfront pricing, fair pricing business model. It's such a great way to run a business. It's an ethical way to run a business, to give a customer a total price, not this hourly rate bullshit, which a lot of contractors are still doing. So unethical. I really love the business because my technicians, they don't have to worry about talking about how we charge $60 an hour or $70. They just rock up with a book. They give the customer a total price for the job. And by the way, it's not just plumbing, electrical, heating and cooling that we can make price books for. We can help any company to build a price book for anything. It's really, we're all about helping business owners to identify what it costs to run their business and then work out how much they need to charge for every job they do. It's a beautiful thing, yeah.
Yeah, and we haven't really touched on that, but you do have a business that does help companies employ those strategies, and we'll touch on that just a little bit later on in the interview here. So, you mentioned a few unique things about your company. It started as a plumbing organisation. Now you do plumbing, you have electrical, you have HVAC. So I suppose if I was to ask you what's unique about your company, what would you say?
Nothing really unique. I don't see as what we're doing as being unique in any way, shape or form. I do think, one thing that my father Dave instilled upon me was reliability. If you say you're going to be at someone's house at 7:00, you fucking make sure you're there at 7:00. And if you're not, you ring the customer and let them know. So I had some really, really strong values instilled upon me about being on time and doing as good a job as you can. So nothing unique, just some really strong focus on being reliable and doing the best job that you can. And look, as much as that's what I'm about, I know it's not a perfect world. We employ, most of our plumbers, electricians, they're young guys. I'm anywhere from sort of 20 to 30. And if we rush the training process and let them go out there too soon, they actually don't do a great job. So it actually goes against what I'm about. But like I said, we're not perfect. We make mistakes like everyone else. But the core values of this company is about training our staff to be reliable, to show up, to communicate, and to do a good job.
I think you'd be surprised at how unique that actually is. It's refreshing to you. So
it's not easy. It's really, really. It's like you think it would be easy to have a reliable business. It's not. It takes a lot of focus. But I'm always really conscious of that with every call that we take here at Omega.
So tell me, was there a pivotal moment for you when you decided to grow and scale your business, or was it just like a progressional thing? It just sort of happened.
I suppose a pivotal moment for me wanting to get in business for myself was the fact I wanted to get in business and work for myself because I knew that I was unemployable. I knew that, my dad put up with my crap, okay? I'm not ADD, but I'm a very a very strong personality, and I want what I want, and I married a woman who's much the same as me, which does make entertainment at home, but strong personality, and I knew that I would be unemployable. No one would employ me because it's just my personality. So I knew I had to start my own business. And like I said, it didn't matter what it was, plumbing, it could have been in anything. But so the pivotal moment entering in the business was the fact that I had to go and work for myself. Yeah. I didn't have an option.
Fair enough. I can somewhat relate to that, believe it or not.
Most entrepreneurs are actually wired that way.
I just found more and more, every book I read, I became a little bit more unemployable.
Yeah, there you go. Don't you love all the books out there?
So tell me, what takes up your day? What do you spend your time doing?
Okay, look, I'm a real sales and marketing sort of a guy, and I have been for the last 10 years. So my day is made up mainly. I'm always looking for better ways to market, better ways to sell. And look, I really want, there'll probably be some listeners on the podcast that go, sales, how can and maybe I should not use the word sales, because to me, a business will die if it doesn't have sales. But, tradesmen are not known to be salespeople. So I just wanted to, before I answer that question, just say sales training to me is about communication and teaching our technicians to be better tradesmen and offering a lot of solutions. So I'm always looking for better way for our technicians to communicate with the customers, better ways for our CSRs, our call takers, to communicate. But I still spend a lot of my day in sales and marketing. Because we've got a fairly aggressive growth plan. We do plan on, we doubled this business in the last 18 months in revenue, and we plan to do that again in the next 18 months. So I spend a fair bit of my time on business growth. And look, it's hard when you're a controlling personality like I am. You want to be controlling everything. So it's really hard for me. I've got to step out of the day-to-day operations and try to spend as much time working on the business as possible, on. And I have to deliberately take myself out of what's going on and say, right, Allan, you're not meant to be dealing with that. Get out, work on, focus on the business growth, the sales and the marketing. Yeah.
I think realistically, this is a business podcast, and our listeners are going to be either business owners or those that are looking to get into business. So I think it would be good for us to clarify that if you're in the mindset that sales is a dirty word, you're probably not ready to go into business. So look, at the end of the day, if you're selling a product or a service, and that is being in business. So you may as well get your head around that paradigm as early as you can.
I'll tell you, a paradigm shift for me was to actually, when I had a trainer, I bring with one of my other companies, Service Professionals Australia, we bring trainers into Australia, and a mentor of mine, a trainer by the name of Joe Cunningham, said, I can improve the results with all of your technicians out in the field just by getting them to stop selling. And I thought, shit, well, that goes against everything that I've sort of thought. He said, Allan, the minute they stop selling, your sales will go up, because they're not salesmen, they're technicians. They want to go out. So I'm going to take you through a process where they're not selling shit, but they're showing customers things that need to be fixed. That's why I try not to use the word sales in front of my staff. I don't call them salesmen. They're service techs. They didn't come to work for me to sell shit. They come to work for me yes, they do make sales. That's a byproduct of the trading. But So just a slightly different perspective on the word sales. And it is a dirty word in the trades. I get that.
So what's the one thing that keeps you awake at night?
Very, very little. Okay. There's really not much that keeps me awake. There used to be things that bothered me, but very little. Like my wife says, Allan, I'm just amazed that within about 3 or 4 seconds of your head hitting the pillow, you're snoring. And, well, okay, I can shut off. I can say very little. I might have, out of 365 days, I might have a handful of nights where I can't get to sleep within about 20 seconds. But that's because I might have a little bit too much going. But if to be completely honest, Matt, the things that worry me the most, and they don't keep me awake, but is people and recruitment. And that's an area where I've really had to change my game in how I deal with people and recruitment. But they're the only two things, and they definitely don't keep me awake at night.
No, it's good. I think that's probably a testament to running a successful business over the years. You sort of become a bit maybe not used to those sort of things that could sometimes affect some people, but you certainly become accustomed to dealing with them and responding to them as opposed to reacting to them. So what do you do when you're not working?
Okay. Look, at the moment, I travel a lot. So last year, 2015, I think I probably spent several months, I think it was probably close to 8 weeks traveling the US, Europe. So traveling, I take a lot of time out of the business, but right now we spend a lot of time relaxing in the city. So we actually are fortunate enough. We have a nice little place in the Rocks, and we love to just hang out there and catch up with friends and cafes and restaurants and pubs, that sort of stuff. So just relax. Yeah. So when I'm at work, I work, usually Monday to Friday. Sometimes it might be 4 days, but when I work very hard. I'm very focused. But when I relax, but I do love to travel. I've just, I wanted to pull back a little bit because I think last year I did a lot of coaching in the US, coaching other contractors. I went to a lot of events, and I think we took about 5 weeks off. We went to Europe for my wife's birthday. But yeah, that's it for me, traveling, relaxing. I used to race powerboats, but I realised that that would shorten my life expectancy, and I really want to be around for a long time yet to annoy more people.
So if Jeannie granted you the chance to fix one thing in your business, what would it be?
Look, probably I find that communication is probably the biggest area of concern in the business, and that's a trend. Like communication, the way we communicate with our customers, the way we communicate between departments. And look, there's no real I know what I need to do there, and I keep saying that communication is the area that we need to focus on the most, but that we do have a real problem with that. But I know it's not a genie waving a wand. Communication is just a process like anything else, and it just needs to be progress. Worked on.
Yeah, good. So what's the best advice you've ever been given?
So I've been fortunate and in having some really, really good mentors, and not just in our family, but mentors from my business dealings in the US and even here in Australia. So probably the best advice I got, I was fortunate enough. I have a brother-in-law who grew his electrical business to in excess of $200 million a year in revenue. And I thought, well, here's a guy that really knows how to build a successful business. And I said, Tony, what one thing, how have you been successful? What is it, if I was to just ask you what one word of advice, or what is it that makes you so successful? He said, Allan, I'm good with people. So I thought, shit, okay. So I could say the best, and we're going back probably 15 years ago when I asked this question, and I thought, well, shit, I'm not real good with people at all. So maybe that would be a good area for me to start. So to become a better people's person, and that's not something you can flick a switch. And I then decided to take on a coach, a leadership coach, and I suppose the other thing, becoming a better people's person, also allowing myself to be led. So taking advice from people who have the answers that I'm looking for. So allowing myself to be led, becoming a better people's person would probably be the best advice I've ever been given.
It's a very humble position. There wouldn't be too many, and that's probably the difference between, I suppose, being a successful business owner and being a struggling business owner, admitting that you don't have the answers and seeking help where you need it.
The most successful people on the planet I would say Bill Gates has a mentor and a coach. I would say Richard Branson, all the most successful sports people, athletes have sports people, same thing. Politicians, rockstar, they all have mentors. So yeah, no one has all the answers. So that is a very, very important bit of advice that I give to everyone that wants it. That is, not everyone wants advice from me. I'm a plumber, don't forget. So yeah. So
I think if our listeners could take one thing away from this interview, it would be that. So what's the one piece of advice that you'd give to upcoming business owners if it's different to what you just mentioned?
Yeah, look, do. I said find a mentor. And look, I try to be a mentor to as many people as I can, but what I find is I got so much going on. I've got multiple business entities, and I find myself, if I want to take time off to travel and time off to spend in the city with my beautiful family, that it's hard to be a mentor for too many people, but I will go out of my way. If someone really needs me, they know how to reach me, I will be there for them. So finding a mentor and really learn the skill of sales, marketing, and leadership.
What's the best thing you've ever done to find new customers?
Without a doubt, just recently, and I did a podcast myself with Matt Michelle, probably one of the greatest marketing minds from the US in our industry, and I talked about the best things that we're using at the moment. I have to say, social media is probably the best way to find new customers, and I'm really I'm in my 50s now. Early 50s, mind you, but and social media is just got me so fucking fascinated by the amount of growth that a company can get. I'm all over this shit, and I'm really going to but I think social media, and anyone that says that social media is not a good tool to use for getting new customers, it's bullshit. They don't know what they're talking about, okay? It is powerful, and that's where, just recently, that's where I want to put some energy. But look, I turned the clock back 10 years ago when I think we had a website at Omega probably closer to 15 years ago, and we were using Google and website way before anyone else that I knew of, because I work with a lot of bigger companies in the US. They were still using Yellow Pages. I didn't like it. And we did a lot of internet work and direct mail. But now I'm starting to change my focus. Still think direct mail is good, but to me, the easiest, best way to find new customers is social media. And there's people out there that know that shit.
Wow. Yeah, that's a very interesting perspective, because I know a lot of people do sort of see social media as can be a bit of a time suck, but I guess it's just a matter of doing it the right way.
It is a distraction, but like emails are a distraction. There's a lot of things that are a distraction. You have to manage that. But I'm just laying it out there. This is where I see the industry is changing, and I will put my money where my mouth is here. I'm not wrong on this. This is where, I know there's a lot of companies popping up that the entrepreneurs are quite young. They're all over this shit, and they're gonna, the older contractors that ain't doing this, that ain't playing with social media, are gonna get left behind. Trust me, it will happen,
mate. It's just one of those elements that forms part of that entire digital ecosystem, isn't it? I mean, it's something we teach a lot at workshops and stuff. There's not one thing that's right. You've got to be across the board, and you've got to appreciate how one part of that ecosystem, maybe it's social media, how that ties into your website, which then ties into your branding and all that kind of stuff. It all works together.
Just one thing I want to say with caution: anyone thinks that they can just go out and use Facebook or I call it Bookface, or Twitter or Snapchat. We're going to start getting into that very soon, and like all the social media platforms out there, you have to really get the service of your business right. Look, we fuck up from time to time. I did an AB group call a couple of weeks ago, and that is an advisory board call. I've got a group of contractors that I mentor, and we talked about, how social media can really bite you if you do a bad job. And, I had my general manager, Nathan, was on the call. And, our company does roughly, I think it does about 1,000 jobs a month, roughly, several hundred a week. And I know we do get complaints about price. Look, we always have done, because we are, I'm not saying we're the dearest service company out there, but we do charge a reasonable price. We do a bloody good job, and I can justify every cent we charge. But we did have, I had this perception that we were getting a lot of price complaints. But when I dug into, the actual numbers, and yes, another one of the things I talk about on my AB group calls is knowing your numbers. It's a really important thing. I was actually shocked to find that, out of 200 jobs a week, we were getting like 3 complaints. I'm seeing those complaints and I'm thinking, shit, that's a lot of complaints. We've obviously, what have we done wrong to get that? But when you break it down, it's such a small percentage, but we tend to focus on the negative stuff. But what I want to say is, if you're going to use social media, you've really got to provide a phenomenal service, because it will bite you. People will complain, and I did one example, and this, I'm really not proud of some of the things that we F up jobs like anyone else, because when you're doing 1,000 jobs a month and you've got young guys, things will go wrong. We had one customer that, we had a new tech being trained, went out, he gave the price to this fella for the job. He'd priced it incorrectly. It was way more than the guy was expecting. He went and charged him the service fee. We charge a very low service fee to get the technician. He not only went on social media and complained about the price, he got 7 fucking friends to bloody also. And we had this we had all this stuff coming up from one job. And, we could have resolved that just by maybe training the tech a bit longer, maybe performing a follow-up happy call, making sure that he's not, if we'd have just not charged him the service fee and just apologised and said, hey, our technician's stuffed up here, what can we do to make it right? We wouldn't have had all these bloody stuff go up. But that happens. That's one thing you do have to be very, very careful with social media. You have to focus on doing a good job.
Yeah, that's great. And you just answered my following question, which is how you avoid competing on price. So thanks for that, without even knowing.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, one step out of reading your mind.
Have you got any tips on winning work or getting better conversions?
Yes. Do you want to tell it to you? Sorry, I'm being a dick. Training. You got to train. You got to train everyone in your company. I said before, Maddie, that I'm good with the numbers. You got to know your numbers. You got to know what your conversion rates are. We have an exceptionally high conversion rate with the amount of calls we do. And one thing about Omega, and this annoys the hell out of some people, and look, I can't apologise for that. We don't go and do free quotes, okay? That annoys the hell out of people, because there's a lot of tradesmen out there that do a free quote. We don't do free quotes. We charge for every call we go to. It's not, look, it's a very low fee, but nonetheless, it's what I call a dispatch fee to get the technician, a fully qualified technician, to the customer's home. And yes, and then that our technicians are very highly trained on helping the customer make decisions. So yeah, just training. And look, I could probably spend half an hour on this point alone, but I don't want to take up too much of the time. But I got lots of ways.
Maybe we'll have you back on the podcast to talk more in depth about that, because I know I've pretty much opened Pandora's box there. Okay, moving along. So do you have any apps or business tools or CRMs or anything that you guys use in the field?
Yeah, we have several, and anyone on the call, write this down. If you want to market your business and grow it, Infusionsoft is probably the greatest CRM marketing tool available. It's I want to be honest, it's a complicated program. But look, is anything that's really good going to be easy? No, it's not. So Infusionsoft for marketing and CRM. I really love the Office 365, the online Office tools, and also the Google Live documents. So look, no one thing that sticks out, but definitely Infusionsoft for anyone that wants to really get serious with marketing. And just all the Office, Microsoft Office online products that are available.
Do you have any referral strategies that you guys employ at Omega Plumbing?
Yeah, look, the best referral strategy, I believe, is just to ask the customer for a referral. So our technicians, they are trained to ask. Can't say they do it in every job, but look, they are trained to ask. Our customer service reps, on every job we attend, we make a follow-up call to the customer, and we just ask them if they're happy with the job. Would they refer us to their family and friends? And if they would, we ask them. Okay. So, yeah, just ask, really. That's it. That's my answer.
Yeah, that was my answer as well, actually. So what's the best way to keep a client in line? I mean, I know you mentioned that, communication's paramount. Would you say that's probably the best way to avoid conflict when it comes to clients?
It definitely, you need really good business systems. So systems and communication. That could require a fair bit of time. I'd love to dig into that one with you next time. So I'm a big believer in systems and business processes and training. So.
And just some advice for the listeners. What in your opinion is the number one thing that you can do to differentiate yourself in a competitive landscape like plumbing or electrical or building or whatever it is?
Well, you got to pick something that's a strength, something that's a strength that you're good at, and to be. Look, okay, really simple. This was what I was taught, and I can't say that it's exactly our business model, but you look around at what the masses are doing. If everyone's walking in one direction, you walk the opposite way. You got to do things different to the masses. Okay, you look at what say Uber is doing, to the industry. It decided to take a different route to what all the taxi industry was doing. Look, you've got to go the opposite direction to the masses, because let's presume that most people are doing the wrong things. And I can look out into the trades, plumbing, electrical, HVAC, and I can see, look, when you start competing on price, you're doomed. You're not going to last. And I saw firsthand, a big air conditioning company, a group called the Hasty Group, or if anyone's on the call has heard of that, and I actually knew and met some of the principals. They were they were doing like construction low price stuff, and they went out of business. So I think if you want to make money in this industry, you got to get away from what most companies are doing. That's just my thoughts.
Yeah, nice. And so I suppose getting to the end of the interview now, just what's the future hold for you?
Right now, I'm as much as Service Professionals Australia is a good little business, and it's there for helping other trades. My big goal is to sell Omega, the group. When we get to about 200 trucks, I plan to sell the business. We also watch. We got in excess of 50 trucks out there, and I'm going to make sure that each truck is generating in excess of about 300K a year per truck. So my goal is to get to 200 plus service trucks, doing better than 300K a piece, and then sell the business at a nice multiplier. But I haven't got forever to do this. So my goal is to have this done by 2000 on or before 2020.
Yeah, wow, big goal.
Yeah, it'll happen. Yeah, we've already laid out the plan to do it. We know me and the team are confident of achieving that goal, so we just got to get on and do it.
Well, mate, I look forward to seeing it all unfold. So, how can people reach you? Okay,
look, just nice and easy. If anyone that's using email, and I'm sure that you are, is admin, ADMIN, admin at serviceprofessionals.com. serviceprofessionals.com.au. Also, we have a great resource on Facebook, our Service Professionals Australia. You just need to go in and search Service Professionals Australia. We're in Sydney. Jump on there. If you send me a message either via email or via our Facebook, Service Professionals Australia, I am happy to help you out in any way I can.
Okay, that's great. And I'll put some notes to that in the I'll link some links to that in the show notes as well.
Yeah, I'm happy to send off. We use Twitter and a lot of the other social medias as well. But I think that's where we keep the most amount of resources. We have a lot of, and our website, serviceprofessionalsaustralia.com, has a lot of free resources. And I've got a ton of, we do podcasts and we've got a lot of really cool articles that will be suitable for anyone in the
that's excellent. And we'll definitely be collaborating on that. Looking forward with the site show. That'd be great. All right. Well, last question was the last question that I have for you is, who would you like to see interviewed on this show next?
I think you know who I'm going to say.
All right.
Peter Cox. Okay. He's up for it. He'd love to do the pod. We have another business called Leading for Growth. That's LEADING, the number 4 growth, which is it's an online subscription leadership training company, and it's about to get. We're about to release it very soon to the public, and it's got some phenomenal resources. It's going to be. We're pricing it at about $50 a month. A lot of really good stuff there, but I feel you need to get Peter Cox on the next call. You know Peter yourself, very dynamic, and he's worked with, he's probably, if not the greatest leadership coach in Australia, he's one of, and he's works with a lot of trades. So he would be perfect for your podcast. Hit him up. Tell him I told you so.
And I would also like to ask you who I could get on the show out of the United States.
Yeah, look, I've got a big list of people from the States. So I'd probably let me think about that. Matt Michelle would be a good one if you can tie him down. He's the founder of Service Roundtable. You met Matt. He's been out here a few times. Comanche, great marketer, great marketing mind. I can try to connect you there. If not Matt Michelle, David Heimer who is the CFO of Service Roundtable. Look, I've got. I could probably give you a list of 10, 15 names that you could reach out to that would probably really love to
that'd be
come
brilliant.
on the podcast. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
beautiful. Got some pretty good questions you're throwing at me there. I think you had me thinking all the way through. So
excellent.
That's good.
Okay, so I'd just like to thank Allan Furguson from Omega Plumbing, Electrical, HVAC, and everything else under the planet for coming on the show today. I know you're an extremely busy man, and I really appreciate the time, and I'm sure the audience and the listeners would have got a heck of a lot out of that. We're going to post some links in the show notes to how they can get in contact with you, and we're looking forward to having you collaborate on the show and come on again. I think we're going to be having you on in a series to help dive into some of these areas of expertise in which you have so graciously given us a small bit of exposure to today. So, Allan, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you, Matt. And I just want to say all the listeners on there, and whether you may be in a place at the moment that you're finding it's difficult to navigate through. You're in the trades for a reason. It's a beautiful industry. I'm really passionate about helping not just plumbers and electricians, but anyone in the industry. And I do have a lot of knowledge, and I've got a lot of stuff that can really add value and help you along. And I'm good with helping anyone out. It's just having the time. So thank you for letting me play in your sandbox.
Mate, you're welcome.
Yeah.
And that's a wrap. So if you haven't already, head across to thesiteshed.com and register for our Toolbox Talks, where you'll be regularly sent great episodes just like this straight to your inbox, so you'll never miss one. If you want to join the community, you can head across to thesiteshed.com/members, where for a small monthly fee, you'll get access to regularly updated training material, as well as access to our forum where you can mingle and collaborate with trade-based business owners just like you from all over the world. If you're enjoying this podcast, please head across to iTunes and leave us a 5-star review. We greatly appreciate it, and it helps us spread the word and reach the masses. Likewise, if you know anyone that might benefit from the content we create, then please go ahead and share this with them.
You've been listening to Toolbox Talks by The Site Shed. For more great content just like this, head across to thesiteshed.com and join the amazing community of savvy trade-based business owners.